Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Mob the Big Apple ended up being a game that I just ended up buying based on a theme on Kickstarter. I thought the game looked kind of cool and actually kind of regretted I bought it and then completely forgot about it. When it was delivered, I kind of have a new rule. I'm trying to get these Kickstarter games to the table as quickly as possible. So we sat down and we played Mob quite a few times over a short period of time and then kept going back to it because we enjoyed it so much. Now, this is a two-player area control game, which right off the bat should tell you it does not work. It should tell you that this is a bust of a game, but it's not. It uses worker placement in order to put out the people on the board, sort of. So each round you have an optional move of rolling the dice, which eats up some of your people. You don't exactly know how many people, which people are your resource. These mobsters are your resource, but you also use those mobsters to take spots of worker placement, but certain spots are going to be more expensive. They're going to cost more of your mobsters. And as you go through this, you're going to want to take certain actions, but the only way to get that action is to spend 3 or 4 of my mobsters. It's a very expensive price to do what I want. So there's a whole worker placement about which actions am I going to take and how am I going to take the actions that I want, but I also need to seed the board so these actions actually have meaning. And you're going to be putting them in these cars, go to these locations to try to get this contraband. But you can move from car to car depending on how the board kind of shapes up. And you can send them to the location, and that way they can't be shot because there is a little bit of take that. But it's not just take that, like flip a card over and all of a sudden I can take your guys out. No, I am planning to take your people out. And you can keep them exposed to me. That will allow you to do more things. Or you can send them into locations where they're relatively safe from my plans, etc. I'm also going to have moles and henchmen that are going to be down, that are going to have a little bit of a secret, so you're not going to know exactly how many people are there, unless you spend actions and mobsters to find out who they are and how many people I have assigned there at the beginning of the game. Excellent. Plays quick, the components are great, the game is fun, there's tension throughout, it's only 3 rounds, so it lasts about exactly what I want it to last. This is one of my favorite games so far to be released in 2022. It has worked brilliantly for us. 2-player only game, Mobsters, it really comes to life. One of my top mobster games, one of my favorite 2-player games, and one of my favorite of 2022 so far. Excellent across the board, absolute keeper for us. Here is Mob Big Apple. It's a Steve Finn game. Comes in this little small box. It's a very good size. And you can see it's kind of shiny. The box is very intriguing on the side. It's a 2-player only game. And the components came with this enamel pen, which I have no use for. A rule book, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. And you're going to get a board. This is going to be the worker placement part of the board. You can see it has a little bit of a glare to it. There's a shine to it. This is going to be the area control. And as you can see, it looks really, really cool. I like the artwork that is used. Everything on it is very easy to see. The dice, everything is just wonderful. You're going to get some of these plastic contraband, cargo type stuff. You're going to have the dice here. And everybody's going to get some poker chips, which are fantastic. These are going to be equal on both sides. And then these things are nice. These are going to be your hidden moles that you'll put down. So on the other side, nobody knows what you have. Then you're going to have like these workers or these mobsters that you'll be utilizing during the game. Very easy moves. Everybody's things on one side, the dice in the middle. Everything fits great in here. Very, very happy with these components. These things are super thick. The poker chips are really nice. The boards are all great. Has that nice gold shine on them. Excellent across the board. So here's the rule book for Mob. It's a picture of the front. You can have a little bit of a story here and a picture of all of the components on this page. Excellent. Set up here with a full picture with numbers corresponding to where things go. And then gameplay. Really, this is all the gameplay right here. You can do 2 things on a turn, and then it breaks it down with pictures. You got examples coming up. Everything is really excellent. All the icons are explained right here, and then how the game ends. And then you have what happens at the end of a round, and this will be the game ending of it, or if you go to the next round, you play 3 rounds in the game. And the back is a key of all the icons. Really, probably 10, 15 minutes you can read through this. I didn't have any issues. I was able to look at this, or more specifically, I would keep this page up a lot to kind of do what happens at the end, and then I would go through each of the icons, and that was very easy for me to do. Excellent. Player aid might have helped. It's only a 2-player game, so you just keep this in between everybody, and within a half a game, maybe around the game, you got all the icons down. Easy. Start the game off. You're going to put a little marker right here. I'll set him down so you can see on this track. It's the only time I'll ever be on the white part. You put 3 on the 3, 2 on the 2, 1 on the 1, etc. Everybody's going to take their moles, and your moles will have different numbers on between 1 and 3. So 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 1s. And you can set them face down. And you're allowed to strategically place these down. And nobody will know which mole is at one spot. At the same time, your opponent will be doing the same thing to kind of complete setup. You have 2 things you can do on a turn. The first one will be optional. If you want to do this, you can roll the dice. And if you see here, I got a 2 and a 2. So I could either place on the black 2 or I could place on the white 2. And the other die is used for the number of mobs. In this case, I could put out 2 mobsters into my car, maximum of 3, at the black location. Or I could have utilized the white location and put 2 in the car down here based on these numbers. Let's say this number had been 1. And I want to use that white die, I could have only put 1 out. So the other die will be the quantity. The second thing you do, which is mandatory, you have to use this board over here. And you can take your workers and place it. Some of these spots require 1, 2, 3, or even 4 workers, depending on, or mobsters, depending on what you want to do over here. Each of these will activate the location to the left, and then you can activate any powers that will be here. So let me go over these really quickly. This one right here allows you to move. So if I was to place one worker here, I could move mobsters from one car to another car along my side of the board. If I were to put a worker here, I can take somebody that's in a car and drive them to the actual location. Normally, when you're at the location, you're safe from any take that or any way of fighting. This one down here allows me to switch somebody cars, and then I can drive them to the location. So change cars, drive to the location, switch cars, and drive to the location. So this location right here, if I was to go somewhere in here for 1, I could move one of my henchmen and move it to a different location. So that's what he's going to do. This one is going to allow me to move a cargo or contraband to a different location. Let's say that my opponent's winning here. I don't think I'm going to win this. Maybe I move it down here and kind of shift things up a little bit. If I were to go to this one, it would allow me to move the feds towards my opponent. So let's say this is me, this is my opponent, and it was here, and I place a worker down. I would move him 1 step towards my opponent. I'll come back to the fed track, but just know this is how it moves it. Now, within this board, there's some other things. So you have a symbol here that has a crate with an arrow down. That means I can take a crate and put it out wherever I want. This one right here that signifies this one, allow you to move the fed in the location. And then you have the gun. What the gun is going to do, let's say your opponent has people out at locations like this. I can choose either the white or the red die, or the black die. In this case, there's 2 people on the white and only 1. So what I'll probably do is roll the white dice. And then if I roll a number where he has a person, all those people go back to the supply, not to his pool. If you roll a number where he doesn't have any people, then you simply got bad intel and nothing would occur. And the rest of these are pretty much the same. You're going to have the guns, which I showed you. Moving up on that track allows you to... This one right here is a little bit different. If it has like a star around it, it's going to allow you to look at somebody's henchmen, and they would have to put out those many henchmen. So now that knowledge being unsure, I now know how many people are there. So that's how that's going to work out. Everybody's going to have 20 mobsters that they can utilize for the round. It's going to be in their pool. And they can either use those on the random rolls, the optional thing, or over here. Once your 20 people are used, you're done for the round. And once both people are done, you'll move on to the next section. So let's say at the end of the round, we have something set up like this. The first thing I'm going to do is everybody who's in a car will move into the center. If they're already in the center, they simply just stay there. So everybody's going to drive their car and finally end up at the location. Keep in mind, there are mobsters with 3 heads on it. They count as 3, and you can make change at any point. So once everybody has moved in, you're done with that. Next thing is you will go ahead and activate wherever the DA is at. So in this case, they will have to reveal a mole, and you get to choose which one to reveal. Once again, they're going to put 3 people out, and now I have that little bit of knowledge, and I have to put one out. If you're ever at the end of the track and you have to keep moving it, you get to take a cargo and just add it to your victory point pile without placing it on the board. Then there's going to be a shootout at each location. The moles do not count, only the mobsters. So there's 3 here, nobody here, nothing would occur. There's 1 here and 1 here, you always lose them 1 for 1. So there's 2 here, you would lose 2 here.
There's 1 here, so he's going to lose 1. There is 4 here, and this is 3, so he's got 4, 5. So he's going to lose all of them, and he's going to lose 4 of them. And this guy has nobody to fight. After you're done with the shootout, you prepare for the next turn. Any henchmen that are on this board will come back to supply. You're going to add 20 back into your pool, and you're going to do the same thing again for 3 rounds. Let's say this is a setup after 3 rounds. Then what you're going to do, when the game is over, you're going to flip these over, and you're going to count. So right now, this guy would have 4, he would have 1, so the blue teal player would grab both of these. These guys have no mobsters there, but he has 6 there, and he only has 3, so the brown guy would win this. Here, there's nobody there. He has 2, so he is going to win this. He would flip this over. It's 2-2's tie. Guess what? Nobody wins this cargo. Then over here, you have 2 versus 1. He would win. This has already been signified here, so let's see what we have. We have 2, so he would win. Count up who has the most contraband, and that is the winner of the game.
Who should buy this game? Anyone having a need for 2-player games. If you're wanting to play area control games, 2-player, this one is going to work brilliantly. If you need more than 2 players, this is not going to work. It's 2-player only. Don't worry about modifying. It's not going to work solo, and it's not going to work with more players than 2. The mobster theme really comes to life. I really feel like I'm making all these different decisions. There's only like 6 or 7 different actions in the game. Moving cars, shooting people up, moving up the fed track, checking out who those moles are, rolling the dice to put mobsters out. There's only a few of these actions in the game, but everything's going to have a different cost, and I've got to decide what that cost is. But it moves quick. The game never outstays its welcome. This is one I highly, highly recommend. Definitely happy with this purchase. Absolute keeper for me.